Welcome, welcome to our Nurturing in Heavenly Father's Way Parenting Masterclass with Kristena Eden. I'm so grateful that she's doing this. Kristena is such a wonderful guide and is brilliant. She has multiple master's degrees and so much life experience, and is a therapist and parenting and relationship coach and an incredible artist and so many other things. And I'm so grateful because I'm excited to learn for myself how to teach my children to work and teach them to learn to work and to nurture in a different way. So I'm super excited. I love that God gives me the opportunity.
I think she's just frozen right now, probably from walking.
Yeah. Are you Jessica?
I am Laura.
Laura.
I'm the one that says I am worthy. Let's see.
Oh,
Here
okay.
I am.
Oh, hi. Nice to
Hi.
meet you.
Yes, likewise.
Cool.
I do love your pictures in the background too. Beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I just started it, so it's not finished yet.
Wow, that is gorgeous.
Thank you.
A woman of many talents, correct?
Well, thank you. So we have Mandy and Jessica here.
Yes, and Mandy said she wasn't able to speak. I think it was Mandy. Let's see.
Yeah, I guess it was.
Yeah.
But she's here.
Yes, she's here.
Nice to meet you, Mandy. How about Jessica?
I'm here, but I'm currently driving, so I'm going to leave my video off and just listen.
Okay. All right. Is there anybody else?
I think that is right now who we have so far.
Okay. Well, maybe more will join us later.
Yeah,
Do you guys have children?
I do. Mine are young adults. The youngest is 19, still living with me, and the 20-year-old just came back. And then the others are 21, 25, and 26.
Oh, so that's 5?
Yes, 5 of them. Mm-hmm.
That's great. Two sick ones with you? You must be going to the doctor? Maybe Kristina's going to be getting back on now. Well, I have 6 children and 12 grandchildren.
What are the ages?
I don't know if you can see the paintings up here of some of my grandchildren. My oldest son is 50, and he's way older than I am. And then my youngest is 35, so we're about the same age. But they've all been wonderful. Was there any particular thing you guys were looking for today?
For me, Kristena, just recently divorced, and
wow.
my ex has left the church, and just really wanting to, I guess, get some ideas on how to help my kids keep that focus on the Savior, even when they're in his home and I'm not there to guide them.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
So teaching them, I guess, to kind of be self-reliant and like rely on their resources.
Good.
But anyway, so any ideas as far as that goes?
Yes. Well, definitely ask questions if we don't cover enough of what you want.
What are the ages, Jessica?
Maybe she can't get back on. She was driving. Okay, well, if you would like, I could just go ahead and get started, and then if things come together better, we can ask more questions. How's that?
Sounds good.
Okay, good. I think the first thing I would like to mention is that there are 3 basic types of parenting, and these are definitely something to think about. There is the authoritative type of parenting, and this is one of the best types of parenting because it's a loving but controlling, guiding and leading and teaching and listening, and there's a lot of love, and there are also boundaries, and those are all very important. Boundaries with a lot of love. Then there is the authoritarian, and this is more of a dictatorship. And this is where I am the parent and you are the child, and you are going to do what I say you're going to do. In those types of scenarios, you usually have a lot of rebellion, children growing up not knowing how to make their own decisions or not understanding that there's more life than just what their parents tell them to do. So that gives the kids a disability. And then there is the permissive parenting. And that one's, I think, is pretty self-explanatory. It's kind of like the parents check out, they don't give a lot of love and warmth, and they let the kids do whatever is on their mind at the moment. And what happens in this scenario is a lot of times that kids grow up thinking the world revolves around them. And some of them turn narcissistic and have no idea how to communicate with the rest of the world. So the best type of parenting is the authoritative, where there are loving, kind boundaries and a lot of love and a lot of teaching and a lot of time spent together. Anyone have any questions so far? Okay. One of the biggest things, and sometimes one of the hardest to keep focused on, is listening to what our kids have to say. And sometimes we think, oh, well, I listened. And when you stop and think about it, you're listening with your telephone in your hand, or you're listening while your favorite TV program is going. And the important thing is to really pay attention to what they're saying. In fact, eye-to-eye contact is the best form of listening, because then you really hear what they say. In fact, if you have boys and girls, there's a difference between boys and girls, other than the physical differences. Even a baby girl will focus their eyes on you more than a baby boy. So this is something to keep in mind when you're teaching, that sometimes an activity with a boy playing basketball and teaching principles while you're playing basketball is a good way to go. Yes, they do need quiet time at times, but it's easier to reach them if you're in an activity. Where little girls or adult girls like eye-to-eye contact, then they know that you're really paying attention. So listening leads is one of the very basic skills that we as parents need to be aware of and to use, so that when we're teaching our kids to work, they know that you care about them and that you're going to listen to them and really listen to them. And I have a story here that I quoted by Wallace Goddard. He is a therapist also that specializes in parenting. If you don't mind, I will just read this quote that he said. I think it was a very good explanation of listening to kids. Had several principles in this story. I remember when my son caught me one evening just as I was dashing off to a church meeting. He told me that his leg had hurt all day. He thought something might be seriously wrong with it. Anxiety was written on his face. He wanted me to help him, and I wanted to be a good dad, but I felt trapped. I had to go to a meeting. I was tempted to minimize his pain by saying, it'll get better. It's probably just growing pains. You'll be okay. I even thought about dismissing his concerns. Don't complain so much. We took you to a doctor when you had chest pains and it was nothing. But I know these approaches would not work. In desperation, I said, I have a meeting and it will not last long. How about I pick you up after the meeting and we go out for dessert and talk about it? Is that all right? He readily agreed. After the meeting, I dashed home, picked him up, took him to the restaurant. We ate dessert and we played tic-tac-toe on the paper placemats. We talked and his leg doesn't hurt anymore. I'm not saying the pain was unbelievable, but I'm saying that many of life's pains and passes without crisis when we feel loved, and our children feel loved when we make time for them. So in that story, there were a lot of different principles. The biggest one was being that he listened to his son, listened to his concern about his leg hurting. And then he didn't dismiss it because he had really listened and he understood that there was some concern there. Then another principle was that he asked his son for part of the solution. He asked his son, would it be okay if I went to my meeting, a short meeting, and then come home and we go for dessert and talk about it more then? So he was asking permission and giving this child an opportunity to make a decision. Those types of things, no matter what situations come up, that if we ask our children what their thoughts are, that it makes them feel more important and it builds a relationship of trust and a better understanding. Any more questions? No questions? Okay. We need to keep in mind that when we're listening, we are listening to not to respond, but we are listening to understand. That's why it's important to put the phone down and do eye-to-eye contact. And maybe before I go any further, I forgot to mention that there on my website, there is a blog about this subject. And if you'll scroll to the bottom of the blog, it has a worksheet. And the worksheet will walk you step by step. We probably won't have time to go through the worksheet here today, but it's very interesting or sometimes very pointed to questions to ask. Okay, Kristena said she was going to send the links for those, so that would be great. So if you have any questions, there's also a link that if you can't ask questions today, you can always set up an appointment to ask me questions later. So listening is the main step to getting children to work and do what they need to do. Taking time with your kids is another very important thing. It makes them feel like they're loved and important. So you could do, if you're a limited time, which would be nice if you had all the time in the world just to go play with your kids and do that kind of thing. But one thing that you can do is when you're grocery shopping is to make it a date with one of your kids, and you can talk about their feelings and what's going on in their lives. And you can also talk about, well, this is how you grocery shop. This is how you check the prices. Does it fit our budget? Those are all good things. And I know in talking to mission presidents and bishops and college professors that a good percentage of the kids that come out into the world are about 90% unready for what the world has to give them. So some of these things are just so important to learn in a place where there's a lot of love and acceptance, and that is in the home. Any questions? You can create a special routine for you and your kids, and that might be every morning after breakfast that you have prayer before they go to school. Or maybe it would be that you do a high five before they leave for school and they come back, do another high five. Some of the important things in life, I know that it's not always possible, but if you could be at home or with your children during those transitions during the day, like when they leave for school or when they return home from school or go to activities or whatnot. Or sometimes you can just leave little notes in their lunchbox to tell them how much you care about them. A lot of different things. Eating together at least once a day is very important. I know when I was raising my kids, they all had activities for several hours after school. And so when they'd come home from school, I would have dinner ready, which sounds really early, but that was a time when we could be together. And so we would have dinner together, and then I would take them to their activities. Several of them were in gymnastics, and so that was like 4 hours every evening. And the funny thing was that a lot of times my older son would bring friends home from school, kids that were from broken homes, and some of them even stayed for a while, a year or two even, so because they had no place else to go. And one of the comments that they used to always say is, wow, you guys even talk together. So how important is that? It made a huge impression on my kids and on their friends. Spending that time together, talking and listening, all very important. Just a little bit of time spent, even if it was just a half an hour at that dinner time at 3:30 every day. Then they would have a snack when they got home. Made a huge impression in my kids for their lifelong learning. Then when it comes to learning to work, have any of you ever had a hard time getting kids to work or to like their work? That's always a struggle.
I'm raising my hand. My hand is always raised.
Oh, was your hand raised? It doesn't show on my telephone.
Oh no, I'm saying that jokingly. Like, I'm raising my hand. Yes.
Okay, yes, good. Did you have some ideas you'd like to share?
I'm here to learn.
Okay. One thing I like about teaching is I can learn from my students too. So learn from my kids. They have been my great teachers for sure. And talking about learning to work, we as a family like to go camping. And I personally don't like to get everything gathered up for camping, and I don't like to go do all the grocery shopping and all the cleanup and the put away and all of that stuff, especially with 6 kids. And so we set up a routine where we would sit down and have a family council. We're going camping in 3 weeks. I need somebody to plan the meals. I need somebody to collect supplies. And I mean, we divided everything that needed to be done for camping. And then everybody volunteered for what part they wanted to do. And even the 2-year-olds thought it was really fun to go shopping, and they got to pick out the food that we were going to eat. Probably not the most nutritious, but we did it anyway. So at one time that we had gone camping, everybody was really excited and everybody said they were ready with their part of it. And then when we got camping and it was time for one of the meals, one that my oldest son was in charge of, and he forgot to bring a knife to cut the watermelon. So the kids came and asked, Mom, what are we supposed to do? We don't have anything to cut the watermelon with. So I said, well, ask Brett. He's the one that is in charge of the meal tonight. So they asked Brett, what are we supposed to do? We don't have anything to cut the watermelon with. And Brett says, well, I have a shovel. So that's what we cut the watermelon with, was a shovel. And it worked out just great. The watermelon still tasted good. So that is just kind of a simple idea of when the kids have an assignment, that you let them fulfill their assignment. And if something's not working right, give them an opportunity to come up with a solution. So anybody have any stories to tell? I have 5 steps to teach children. And these very same steps will help if you're running a business and you have to train the new employees or whatever the case is. These very same principles work for whenever you need to teach new situations or reteach or to make sure that things are working right. Number 1 is when the kids are small, or if they're just learning a skill like mowing the grass, then you do it for them while they're watching. And you would be amazed at how much they notice when they just watch. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is to do as the children get older, you can do the chores with them. Like if you're picking up toys to put away, you can do it with them, make it fun, sing songs. I had one friend that was teaching her children how to make the bed. So she said, we pull the blankets up on this side, and then you do a forward roll over the bed to the other side, and then pull the blankets up from there. So you can just make these teaching chores fun and simple. You have a lot less fight back when you do that. Number 3, after you do the chores with them, you have the child do the chores on their own with you watching. Now that one could be turn into a dictatorship, which we don't want. We just want to make sure that we are teaching our kids, wow, you did a really good job on that. I'm really impressed by how much you did. Did you have any more questions on that? Do you need me to show you anything? It looks like you're doing great. So that's the purpose of watching, to see how they are doing. So that's step number 3. And step number 4 is for them to do the chores on their own. And there again, they know how to by this time. If they don't, then it would be all right to repeat steps 1, 2, and 3. And then always asking them, does that make sense? Are you ready on your own? Because you want them to be a part of this. So you encourage comments, you keep it safe. If they make derogatory comments, you can turn it to a more positive comment and encourage them, that kind of stuff. If they don't want to do it, you can ask, what's the matter? And they'll say, I just don't want to do it. And you can say things like, well, I can understand that. Sometimes I don't want to do dishes either, but the fact is they still need to be changed. Dishes still need to be washed. So have you got a suggestion on what we can do? And, you know, they may come up with some silly ideas, and you could keep turning it back to them. Yeah, that I don't think that would work because we can't afford paper plates every day. But that does sound like a good idea if we could afford paper plates. So can you come up with a different idea? So you just keep putting it back on them to come up with solutions. And generally what happens is they say, okay, I'll just do my dishes. If you can set up different awards, the only problem with giving kids awards for doing their work that they're supposed to do is that they start getting the expectation that everything in life that they do, they will get paid for. And we know as parents that that's not what happens. we still have to do things without getting paid for. We just need to do things for the love of doing things or for the love of people that we care about. So more of intrinsic motivation. We do it because we love Daddy, rather than external, where I'll pay you $25 if you'll do the dishes. So hopefully that makes sense. Number 5, this is the very important step. You have them teach someone else. And if you've ever had a 2-year-old teach you how to load the dishwasher, it's really hilarious. It's just a fun thing to do. So you can have older kids teach younger kids, or younger kids practice on older kids. It's been a proven fact that when we're teaching, we learn more ourselves. So I think that's one of the great things I love about teaching, because I learned so much. Okay, following this process is a lot of instruction with a lot of love. And it sounds like, wow, that's so much work to go through all of those 5 steps. But I can tell you it's definitely worth it. It really is, because by the time my kids were in high school, I had free time. I didn't have to do all the cooking. I didn't have to do all the house cleaning or the laundry, nor the grocery shopping. I could spend my time painting or doing pottery. Of course, I did that with them also. So even though it's a lot of time and commitment now, it makes such a huge difference as the kids grow. Plus, they get really proud of themselves. Look, Mom, I loaded the dishwasher all by myself. So just one step at a time, but it's so worth it. And our purpose as a parent is to teach our children to be ready for life, and life hits us all, whether we want it to or not, and if we're more prepared. And I know, not saying that I'm a perfect parent, and I'm not saying that my children are perfect, but I do know that when one of my kids went off to college, he knew how to sew and mend his own clothes and balance a checkbook and how to cook. And I mean, everything that we have to do in our mundane things, fun things, whatever. But he had a friend there that needed some clothes mended. So my son traded. I'll show you how to mend your clothes if you'll help me with my paper. So it's just a good feeling as a mom that when your kids get off on their own, that they are capable of doing what needs to be done. I mean, we spend a lifetime loving our kids, and as much as we hate to have them leave and be self-sufficient, it's worth it. And that's a hard stage of life. But I am so grateful that my kids are able to do the things that they need to do. So have you got any questions? No questions?
Christina,
Yes.
I have a question. So I have an 8-year-old right now that is falling into that trap of, she thinks she's got to receive something for anything that she does. And a lot of it is when she goes to Dad's house, that's how he operates.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to curb it at my house, but it's everything she does is, so what do I get for that? So what do I get for that? Do you have any suggestions on
yeah. Well,
how to change that?
Yeah, that's a hard one. And you can't change an ex-husband, but you can instill in your child the love to work. And you can say, even tell her, come right out and tell her, I wish that I could pay you for every little thing. And yet to me, it is more important that you learn to love life, and that you learn to love to work, and that you learn to love to take care of yourself, because you're not always going to have Dad pay you for every little thing. So just be plain, frank, forward. And I had one parent tell his daughter that I know that your mom doesn't have the best vocabulary, but while you're here in my house, we want to love each other. So there are ways that you can do that, and you don't want to tear down your ex in any way. Just that we do things differently, and this is the reason why. Did that help any?
Yeah, well, and those are the things that I'm doing, but it's, I guess, just in this process of like adjusting, maybe it's just hard.
Yes. How long have you been divorced?
Well, we've been in the process for 2.5 years, and it was finally signed in end of September.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those first little while is going to be really hard but as soon as the kids learn that they are preparing for their life, and both you and your husband love them, and that the things that are important for you to be prepared for is this, and this. And I'm sorry that you have to go from place to place, but we still love you. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Constantly letting them know that, well, for one, that your divorce wasn't their fault, and you both still love them. And it's good to talk about with your children. You can't go to your children and say things like, I'm depressed, I'm discouraged, and because they haven't experienced those things in life, and that puts a big burden on them. So basically, you save that for your therapist, and then letting your kids know that we're in this together. We will make our lives good. We will learn all the things that we need to learn, and we will do it all together and with love. Does that make sense? Did I get cut off?
Kristena, that was so beautiful. I want to add a comment / question. My kids are very, very, very good at making messes. They have all the muscles in the world when it comes to wanting to make a fort and bringing down 2 mattresses that they should not be able to carry on their own.
But they do. Yeah.
But actually putting the things away, like, it is so. It's like my daughter at 7, like, she will just like throw a big tantrum or like run away. And so what do you do? Like, the work needs to be done, no matter how many nice like ways that I ask. Like, what do you do in that case where it's like?
Well, you start out with, we do have a big mess here, and I'm so glad you guys are creative, and yet that puts a lot of burden on me as a mother, because I would a lot rather spend time reading you a book in bed than cleaning up the mess. So what are your thoughts about, let's do this together? Have you tried something like that?
I'm sure that I need to just change my wording. That's what I need to do. Instead of saying like, okay, if we do this, then we can go watch a movie, or like we can go read, like making it more their idea, because they're little creators. They love to create. And so I think finding a way, I just have live at my house for just like a day and just whisper in my ear these things today. That'll be very helpful.
Yeah, you just keep putting it back to them. Well, what should we do? Or that sounds fun, but I don't think it'll work because I still have to clean up the mess. Or have you got another idea? Just keep putting it back, encouraging them. And if they can't come up with an idea, then it's okay for you to say, well, I have an idea then. How about if we do this together? So you just keep, it may go in a circle and a circle and a circle and a circle until they finally get the idea that you're not going to clean up their mess. So eventually they need to figure out how to do it. Did that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Did everyone get the free download at the end of the blog? There was some questions on it, and some of them sound mundane, but the reason I put them is because sometimes we don't think about those things. We're exhausted, and we just want the mess to go away. So, like I said earlier, that it's definitely exhausting right now, but it will eventually pay off. The free download for nurturing and teaching Heavenly Father's children. Here is an outline to consider when talking to your children, and it's about listening. Number one, when your child talked to you, what did they say? That sounds a little redundant just because I think it's important for you to think about, what did they really say? Did I need to put my phone down and listen again? So I want you to write down what they did say. And a lot of times language changes. And I can think of several words that they use nowadays that we never used to use. So sometimes just knowing their terminology makes a difference. Okay, that number two, what do you think they said? Number three, what emotion are they showing? And it was like that story that I read to you earlier from Brother Wallace. He noticed that his child was very anxious, and they always show their emotion. So, and this is true with no matter who you talk to, you can read their face. After repeating in your own words what they said, did they agree with you, or did they explain it again? So if you put it what they told you in your own words and ask them, is that what you said? Then that way you get closer to understanding. So what did they really mean? Then the next on the free download is taking time. What is quality time for you and your child? So for one child, it might be to play in a mud puddle. Another one might be to go get ice cream. So you know your child, or a good time to get acquainted with your child. What do they really want you to spend time with them? I remember my mother was fluent in Spanish, and I loved it when she sat on the couch with me and explained the words. What are the daily connection times? Like we talked about, a prayer or a high five as we separate. So think about what you would like or what would work for you and your children as a getting back together and a goodbye and hello. What chores are you teaching your toddler? What are they watching you do? So that goes back to those 5 steps of teaching our children. What chores are you doing together, and what is the outcome? And that one, if you're thinking about what is the outcome, if there's anger or frustration, then maybe the approach needs to be changed, or maybe you need to ask the child, how should we do these dishes differently if you're frustrated with it? Or even to the point where, yes, I can understand why you're frustrated, but it still needs to be done. What chore is your child doing alone with you watching? And remember to not criticize. How did both of you do on this one? That would be a good one to self-reflect. Did I criticize or did I encourage? How does it feel for both of you when this is accomplished? Did you enjoy having your child teach you, or did you choose to teach? Or who did they choose to teach? Was there a feeling of accomplishment? Did any of these above questions or teaching sessions need to be redone? So there again is another self-reflection. Do I need to go back and reteach one of these steps? Any questions?
How do you like apply a lot of those things to young adult children?
I didn't understand the question.
Like, how would you apply like some of the communication kind of things, like when you're dealing with an ex-spouse, possibly with young adult children who and the spouse has chosen not to be in their lives and has kind of left them behind. How do you I guess how do you help to not, where you can't fix it, but you see like a lot of repercussions that have happened because of that, and how can you help your relationship with them and then also not to become, you know, so much trying to fix it,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, when they become adult children or adults, you can't fix it unless they ask you to. When they leave home, you can always, if they don't want to contact you, you still need to do what you believe is right. So if that means to send them a text, I love you, and today's a good day, and do you want to go to dinner? Or if they're leaving a bunch of stuff at the house, you could ask them what you want to be done with it, or you can just let them know that it's all sacred stuff, that you're going to store it, unless she has a better idea. Did that answer the question? It's always important to, especially when they're adults, that you do not interfere with their life.
So I think it was a little bit hard to understand, Laura. The voice was a little bit fuzzy. So I think what Laura is asking is, how would you apply these things, like teaching the kids? How would you apply these lessons to teaching young adult children? Like,
Yeah.
because sometimes it feels like, oh, it's too late, and it's not, right? Like, we can still. I feel like my heavenly parents are teaching me all the time. They're going through those 5 steps. Okay, look how I do it. Look how this person does it. Look how Kristena does it. And then
Yeah.
now let's put it together. And so I feel like it's, I think that, and Laura, you can correct me if I was wrong, but I think that that's more what you were asking.
Okay. That's a good question. And again, realizing that adult children, I mean, it would be nice if we could take away their free agency and make them do what they're supposed to do. But that's not the plan. And so the only thing you can do is keep teaching with love. And that is not preaching, but maybe even asking, this would really help me if you did this. How is that possible for you to help me with that? I love you, but I am worried about some of your choices. Do you have any questions about your choices? Tell me what you're thinking. So just keep putting it back to them, realizing you cannot take their agency away from them. It's okay even to say that the choice that you made really worries me. Did that answer the question? Is there any of it you want me to repeat? You can always go to my blog on Core Living Essentials, and I do have a lot of articles there about parenting or about self-esteem or about marriage, any of that kind of stuff, and it's all free. And then there is a link there that if you have any questions, you can sign up to talk to me. Also, I have a program that I help people with that helps them see what things are bothering them, what's preventing progression, help to rewire the brain so that you can find more peace in your life. So all of that's there on my website, and it's free.
Thank you so much, Kristena. This has been so wonderful. And we're going to be doing a couple of other classes like this that are free, that are like little mini lessons that we can apply to our lives. So I'm so thankful that she did this.
Great.
And
glad to meet new people too. So
does anybody have any last comments or questions? Anything that they would? And also, do you have any suggestions for what you would like to learn when it comes to parenting and relationships in one of our masterclass?
Yeah.
Oh, and Mandy, Kristena is she's an incredible children's author and author as well. And Mandy is an author too, and she just wrote an incredible book. And her 13-year-old daughter is the illustrator. I'll have to introduce the two of you.
That's
incredible.
awesome. That's great. On my website also is a free newsletter. So if you would like to get the newsletter, you'd be welcome. Well, that's great.
I love your newsletters.
Oh, thank you. That's fun that you and your daughter, Mandy, are doing projects together. How exciting.
So
well,
awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks, ladies.
Yeah, thanks so much for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.